Folks, what is going on? It's your boy Donnie filling in for Maniac as a conductor. Welcome to Trainwreck tonight, sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. Just to remind you guys, check out our store, get 10% off with promo code Trainwreck. Everything hats, shirts, hoodies. We got it all, and we're adding more every day. So check that out. But without further ado, let's bring up our guys. Mike the Bundt Bomb. Well, very active today, all over. If you didn't see Mike Bundt, you weren't on the timeline. And Slick L, brand new graduate, a master of business. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good.
Feeling real good. I'm feeling even better now that I see Mike Bundt on my screen. As if I didn't see him enough on my screen already. Now we have more. Can't wait for the explanation on just what led to the success of Mike Bundt.
Yeah, exactly. You can never have too much Bundt, and we're giving the people exactly what they want. Hopefully, we'll have Maniac join us and a little bit today. He's a busy man. He's got a busy shoot going on, and so that's all good. But let's get right into it. Trainwreck tonight, 389, sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. We wrapped up 2 Game 7s yesterday. We had Thunder and Panthers, and guys, I mean both these games, the first period, looked like we were going to have a tight game. And by the third, it was completely unrecognizable. I mean, 2 blowouts.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers Maple Leafs game was awful. You could tell early on that Florida was the better team. Then Toronto gave it a little bit of a push at the end of the first period, but Florida just dismantled them. And then OKC, I thought that was going to be a game between them and the Nuggets, but the Thunder look like the team to beat in the NBA right now. They are on fire, and as much as everybody wants to see the Knicks in the NBA Finals, I think we're getting ready for a Thunder Pacers finals matchup pretty soon.
Oh, hot take from Bundt right off the rip. Yeah, very well said, though. We're kind of seeing a change of guard in the NBA where we have these young teams beginning to dominate the playoffs because they have the endurance factor over teams like the Nuggets, who have been there before. They've done similar things to what these young teams are doing now. But when it comes down the stretch, these playoffs often come down to who can stay healthy and keep their full team together. The starting 5 they want to keep, and the rotation guys in the rotations that they want to put them in. And OKC is dominating with that. So many young guys, so many guys hungry and eager, led by SGA, obviously. But that Nuggets team, banged up, guys are getting older. You had Aaron Gordon being your primary source of scoring in that first quarter yesterday, and he has a strained hamstring and can barely even jump off the ground. And then when he can't make a jump shot, what are you going to do? I mean, it's not a good sign right away that arguably the best basketball player in the world in some people's eyes can't even be your primary source of scoring. So right then and there, you knew the Nuggets were doomed. I'm happy for the Thunder. I'm happy for the city of Oklahoma City. It's been a long time since they've had any sports relevance. So for them to be back there in that conference final spot is huge. And then obviously I'm just happy to see the Leafs get dominated. That was awesome. Could have used a Verhaeghe first goal, but happy the Maple Leafs are out. And while we're at it, the Maple Leafs and the statistic, and Mike Bundt's been the hot topic today. Should we just jump right into why Bundt has been the talk of the town?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you haven't seen why he's the talk of the town, you've been living under a rock. I mean, you had DraftKings with a shout out, obviously spitting Chiclets with a shout out, Game Day Tailgate. Everyone's been clipping that Chiclets clip. And I mean, the last time I checked, that tweet was just, the view count was incredible. What are we at right now with that?
Let's pull it up.
Yeah, let's here. Let's get it. Yeah, let's check.
I think it's just under 800,000 now.
Yeah, that's
just under 800. Oh my God, you're right. Holy hell.
That's going to easily break a milli, and that's not even considering, the amount of people that screenshotted the tweet and added to graphic.
Right, here we go.
I mean, like, what's today been like for you, bud?
Yeah, it's been wild. So I knew, like, the tweet was gonna be popular among Sabres fans when I retweeted it on Crossing Swords. I've kind of done the same thing the last couple years. Whenever the Maple Leafs are eliminated, I always talk about how the Sabres have more playoff series wins since the lockout, just because it's one little fun thing for Sabres fans during all this misery. But what was really when I really knew it was going to go off when it was already at around 1,000 likes. It was getting a ton of views, and suddenly it went from being all of these Buffalo sports fans and Sabres fans to people from Ottawa, Montreal, Winnipeg, Alberta. Suddenly, like, everybody throughout Canada was starting to like and retweet it. And at that point, one of my friends right before midnight texted me, and he said, "Your tweet's going to get 10,000 likes." And I was like, we'll see. So I just threw out a random tweet about it, and I was like, maybe don't Ryan Whitney, don't tell Biz about this. It just like joking, and wake up and people start sending me videos about them talking about it on Spin and Chiclets, which is it's insane. Like that's the number one hockey podcast in the world right now. And for Biz and Ryan Whitney, and obviously they have no clue who I am to be talking about something I just randomly put on Twitter.
What do you make of the Mike Bunting short reference?
That's funny because I think he was joking, but I don't know. Maybe he was serious.
Definitely. No, I think that was totally a joke.
Yeah. Either way, I thought it was hilarious, and then Gatesy going along with it and making a graphic of Ryan Whitney saying, "Who's Mike Bundt?" I don't know who Mike Bundt is. Like it's awesome. Like every once in a while, you hit on a tweet that connects with people, and it's fun to go off. I've had 2 tweets in my life that have really gone off. This one and one with Brian Kelly, which basically had his accent, which that went crazy all over the U.S. and this more so Canada. So it's crazy to see a hockey tweet really go off because it's a lot harder for those to really become viral and go big.
And I think that this compared to that Brian Kelly one is so huge because that Brian Kelly moment itself got a lot of national spotlight. It was all over the sports centers. Everyone was like, "Oh, here comes the fake accent." Obviously, no one's primary focus, except for us Buffalo Sabres fans, when the Leafs get eliminated in usual fashion, is how can we use this to our advantage? And here's Mike Bundt doing it in the best possible way you could think of to troll Leafs fans. I mean, as if Biz wasn't already speechless. I feel like he accepted defeat because of just how good that stat was creatively wise.
Like you kind of have to go with it.
To acknowledge it.
Yeah, you kind of have to go with it. Like if you're going to be talking up the Leafs nonstop, you kind of have to eat your words when it's thrown back at you. And like that's the coolest thing about that tweet was we're all embracing the crap around it. It's Buffalo Sabres fans admitting like, yeah, our team hasn't done shit in forever. We know we're not good. It's Toronto Maple Leafs fans being pissed at failure once again. Another season that essentially is meaningless at the end. And then it's the rest of the NHL universe, mostly Canadians, laughing at the fact that the team that should be the New York Yankees of the NHL can't even get out of the second round. And you think about it, the Sabres haven't even made the playoffs in 14 years. To have more playoff series wins than anybody over a 20-year period is insane. And I also learned on top of it, I guess the Minnesota Wild only have 2 playoff series wins since the lockout too. So I guess since 2005, the Sabres actually have had a little bit more success than a few teams still.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the best part too, seeing butthurt Leaf fans, saying like, well, what about go back to 2000? They want to tighten the window to like 2012 or something. It's like, yeah, but I mean, that's a smaller sample size. If you're looking at 20 years, it's an incredible statistic. But I also go into the Spin Chiclets before we leave Toronto Leafs. I saw this and I wanted us to watch this and react to this. I don't know if you guys saw this Tkachuk clip, but he joined them surprisingly. So
sometimes you feel bad for them because like they have some unbelievable players and a great team. And I was actually saying this last night to some of the guys, like if their team was not in like Toronto dealing with all like the crazy circus stuff outside of it, like they'd be like an unbelievable team and like such a hard team to play. Like they just have so much to deal with, and I feel bad. I mean, we don't have to deal with that in Florida. And I feel like that's what makes me and my team so lucky. But
Wait,
yes,
what?
I mean,
what
you
is
have
he
another,
what
yeah,
is he
you have
talking
a
about?
professional hockey
We know
player
what he's talking about.
at his stature, basically saying like, well, now here's the thing. First, do you think this is sincere? That he feels bad for some of the fellow players,
No.
and then two, like, I mean, do you really buy this thing that Florida is really has that much less pressure, and that's why they're having more success?
100%. That is true.
I agree, it's true, but
I bet you they
but
walk outside in Florida and they don't even get recognized.
Yeah,
Like they literally are nobodies in Florida.
is okay,
like-
but is that all Tkachuk is talking about?
No, so like the first part's a joke. Like the first part's a
Okay.
joke.
All
Like
right.
like obviously he doesn't actually feel bad for like them.
Well,
But
yes.
if we're gonna like truly dive into like the Toronto issues, we have to admit like the NHL is a really messed up league with how everything is set up. First of all, the Florida teams do have an unfair advantage with the salary cap as far as taxes compared to teams like the Sabres and Canadian teams. Like that's a fact. That's not some made up BS. And then the second thing is there is no pressure in Florida because nobody in Miami knows who Sam Reinhart or Tkachuk are. They're just random white dudes that are just that happen to play.
And there's
hockey.
a lot of white dudes.
Like if you actually look at like their TV ratings, like people didn't even know they had a hockey team until 3 years ago. Like so there's a way more pressure in Toronto than there is Florida. And then you look at the way the playoffs are set up, the NHL basically is taking away parity because you have to go through your divisional matchups almost every year to make it to a conference final. So because divisional formats have been made the way they are to enhance rivalries, you're basically playing the same teams in the playoffs every year. So if you have a bad matchup in your division, you're going to keep losing year after year after year unless you change your team. The LA Kings have lost to the Edmonton Oilers 3 straight years in the playoffs. I think it's something like that. So the NHL, what they need to do is go back to the old 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5 for matchups. Then you'd get more randomness. And with more randomness, you'll get more teams advancing. But as long as they keep keeping it like it is now, teams like Florida are going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 seeds every year, and they're going to knock off the Maple Leafs, even if it's a good year or a bad year. And teams like the Maple Leafs are going to be one of the top 2, 3 teams in the East every year, and they're going to lose in the second round or the first round. It's an NHL problem, and the league is just so stupid that they're content with letting some of their big markets suck because they think they have a proper playoff format. The whole league is stupid, and it leads to all of this, even if it's fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. They have to fix a lot of the way the playoffs are designed. I think it is interesting in terms of the pressure in Toronto concept. The game they won two games at home, one on the road. The first 2 games they won, 0 pressure, start of the series. In the last 3 games, they had 2 at home, 1 on the road, lost both at home, and won the road game. So they lost game 5 at home, won 6 on the road. Obviously lose again game 7. So it does kind of seem when the Heat's turned up, the leaves crumple, you know, has been the old saying. You know, it's wild too though. If you asked me 20 years ago, when with the Drury Briere, I'd say Buffalo became it was a hockey town, hockey help. I thought now we don't have as much pressure going on as Toronto, but I would have said too, there's plenty of pressure here. But I mean, yeah, we can't use that for our excuse of not getting to the playoffs. But yeah, the NHL has to. I agree. There's too much division. Seeing the same team too many times is kind of.
And you want to know something too? The top 4 teams in the NHL this season were all eliminated in the second round. When you have your top 4 teams all eliminated in the second round, maybe there's
a case in the NBA right now.
So the NHL will say, "Oh, that's a good sign for parity," but it's really not. It means that you're in a league with so much randomness in some regards that certain teams that your good teams aren't even advancing. But then even with that randomness, you're getting the same teams advancing deep all the time. It's kind of weird. It contradicts itself in a way. But like you think about it from an NHL perspective. Right now, the Carolina Hurricanes are facing the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is going to be one of the lowest rated Eastern Conference Finals that in the U.S. and I'm sure in Canada that the NHL will have in like the last 20 years. And then the winner of that is either going to play the Dallas Stars or the Edmonton Oilers. McDavid's the only thing that can save the Stanley Cup Finals right now. If it's the Dallas Stars versus the Carolina Hurricanes, who else is going to watch it outside of people in those cities? Like the NHL has problems in
salty Sabres fans from like
you're looking at with those two teams matched up in the finals. You're looking at every game ending like 2-0, 2-1. 1-0. I mean, those are two boring teams for being real. You know, it's just the way it is.
It's messed up. And then you look at the bottom of the league. How long was Ottawa crap before this year? How long was Montreal kind of crappy? You're talking about Detroit being crappy, the Sabres being crappy. These teams get crappy and they stay crappy for half a decade, 5-6 years. There's no mixing things up. The league is really, in my opinion, kind of a crappy spot. And there's a lot of things they need to fix. In the Toronto thing, I don't know what you do. Because if you're the league and Toronto now is probably going to get rid of Marner, but they have no first-round picks the next 3 years. John Tavares is getting older. They're going to need Austin Matthews and Nylander to carry the Maple Leafs. But if somehow they take a step back in future years, how is that going to benefit the league that your model franchise did nothing when it mattered? And I'm not saying the rig things or favor things for the big markets, but what you're seeing is the NHL doesn't care about what Toronto does, and they don't care what Buffalo does. At the end of the day, when you see Florida and Tampa Bay go to 6 of how many of the recent Stanley Cups in the Eastern Conference, it's not a good thing for the sport of hockey. There's no mixing it to be a good thing for hockey. You can say, oh, people in the South are paying attention. I'd rather have 10 million people watch across U.S. and Canada than tens of thousands of people in Florida watching hockey.
Yeah. I think they have some good things going for them in terms of what they've been doing to expand the league, 4 nations wise and other things like that. But that's definitely a soft spot they got to work on. And it's like, yeah, you mentioned Ottawa, and it's like we're still here. They've gotten to that point. We haven't. I think the NHL even knows right now McDavid is going to be their Lord and Savior when it comes down to this stretch. They're just praying he and those Edmonton Oilers can get into that Stanley Cup final and maybe even rub some salt in the wound of the Maple Leafs by being that first team in so long from Canada to capture Lord Stanley Cup. But without further ado, John, shall we move on?
Yeah. So I was going to say, in terms of league, that's both, doing great right now, but also marred in controversy. We had WNBA starting this weekend, and I mean, this game was 2-3 days ago. This was Saturday, and there's arguments still happening all day. I mean, we got Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. You knew they were going to face off against each other to start the season in a fantastic spot. Now, the clip we don't have right now, but for those that didn't see, Angel Reese goes to get a rebound, gives a little shove. Foul wasn't called. Whatever. Caitlin Clark decides not to give her the easy basket. Has a little reach in. There's a stumble, a hard foul. I wouldn't say like a dirty play though. It wasn't really up above the neck or waist really. Angel Reese didn't like that. She's, that's the type of player she is. Very emotional. Nothing wrong with that. But the whole dialogue around this has already been red hot. and we now have RJ3, Emmanuel Acho, and Ryan Clark pretty much in like a three-way, like the Mexican standoff fight. Have you guys seen this?
No,
Well,
no.
if it involves the people you just said, I don't know if I want to see it because
Yeah.
I have 2 of the 3 muted, I think. So
Yes. So, we'll
Fill me
quickly
in.
gloss over this then. RJ3 says you can just tell, you know, Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, and like hates in I think a competitive way. We've seen this. Rob Ray hates Ty Domi. We've seen Sherman and Crabtree in the NFL. We've seen these intense like or Mike Evans and Lattimore, right? Was the guy in the Saints? Where they fought like
Yeah.
4 times.
Lucic,
We've seen
Ryan
these.
Miller.
Yeah, we've seen these types of things. I thought he was just pointing it out. Ryan Clark, who's been accused in the past of overtly racializing issues, and that's by other black commentators as well, says what he says. This whole and then Emmanuel, he's going to jump in. I'm sure you could guess what he says. He's also racializing the issue, and I think if you're the NBA though, do you want this, or WNBA? Do you want this, considering the investigation that's supposedly happening as well for during the game?
okay, do you want me to go first, Lick, or do you want to go?
Go ahead, Mike.
So I think everything going on with the WNBA regarding Caitlin Clark and the way other players treat her, I think it's all it's a shit show, and I think it's a joke, and I think it's embarrassing for the league. But I don't think the league really cares because they're getting more attention than they've ever had in their entire history, and they're basically deciding to capitalize off of it rather than to snip it when they can. Here's the thing. Let's be real. The players do hate Caitlin Clark, and they can say whatever they want about her paying her dues or that this league is much more difficult when it's different playing against women than girls. But no, they treat her like crap. There's never been a player that has entered the WNBA that has gotten the amount of attention that Caitlin Clark has had and then has dealt with all the nonsense. There's players going out of their way to follow her and deal with a bunch of crap. And yeah, stuff like that happens in basketball. We see it in the NBA. But the difference is, like, there's prices to pay for in the NBA. The WNBA, it's just all these players that are jealous and upset with her. And then you have the racial aspect of it too, where it's a white girl from Iowa that isn't like really look like somebody that you would expect to be the best player in the league. And I think there's a lot of players that she goes up against and competes against that they don't like it. And it's not even just the racial side, black woman not liking that a white woman is the star of the league. It also has the element of older players jealous of a younger player that is getting opportunities and financial opportunities that they didn't get during that time.
Massive sponsor deals, way more than any other player.
And then you add on top of it, was the league growing prior to Caitlin Clark? Yes, it was. It was getting bigger, but it was going up slowly. Maybe it was just starting to go up a little bit more. So it was riding some nice momentum, and they could see it getting better. And then Caitlin Clark comes in, and it goes like straight up, exponentially increases. They want to say, well, we were already moving in the right direction. Yeah, you were moving in the right direction. You weren't moving in that direction, though. You were moving slowly. She changed everything, and they don't want to give her any credit for it. And I think she's handled herself amazingly and gracefully while dealing with a lot of unnecessary hatred and crap from other people. And I've watched enough of the games. I've seen enough. It's even commentators on TV and people that report on the WNBA. They try to validate it. And I think it's just embarrassing look for the league, even when they keep her off Team USA because they want her to earn it. Yet there was college women players that used to make Team USA that didn't have to earn it. So it's like they're trying to talk like they're a legitimate league that is like the NBA. But if your actions don't match your words, then your words literally have no meaning. Basically, they say things, but what they say isn't how they actually have been throughout history. And I guess the last thing I have about it is this just seems like another WNBA issue where they just want the spotlight because it gets them more time on ESPN. It's the same as when you have WNBA players talking about wanting to get paid the same percentage that NBA players get paid, not realizing that the WNBA doesn't make even a fraction of the amount of money that the NBA makes. It's just for headlines. It's ridiculousness, and I some of these might have valid conversations to it, but too many of the women in the league just will refuse to address it and talk about it logically and rationally.
Yeah,
and
sorry,
so,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think Bundt said a lot of things very well. This comes down to jealousy, and it's a shame because the league, like Bundt said, on the slight up was you started to see these girls balling out in college. Everyone's eyes were a little bit more glued in on the female product of basketball. It was a great thing to see. Caitlin Clark, obviously, the most people watch the women's NCAA tournament in forever since these two squared off in that tournament. And then Caitlin Clark gets to the league. People are so thankful on the surface for what she's going to bring to the league. Teams now have their own jets that will charter them game to game. And it's because of all this extra revenue in that's coming translated directly from these superstars that are making names for themselves in college before they even get to the WNBA, something we hadn't seen since the likes of Sue Bird or sorry, I'm drawing a blank on her name. Brianna Stewart,
Right.
both conveniently UConn grads as well. And now we have Paige Beckers coming into the league. So things are only going to keep going up. And then players are holding a grudge against her for getting all this spotlight. And it's like, you would not be flying on this jet with your entire team courtesy of the league if it might not have been for some of these younger girls, specifically Caitlin Clark, who just happens to be like the best white female player in quite some time. It is just baffling that they're like the appreciation, whether it's there or not, you can tell it's more than just a competitor's edge sometimes on the floor with the attitude you hear in the media scrums. And when the other name is brought up to these other players, specifically Angel Reese, even after this matchup, I think she literally skipped a reporter's question when he referenced her answer to being like, oh, the league's not just Caitlin Clark coming in. Like there's other superstars that are making names for themselves like myself. He like followed up and asked her about that same comment from the same question last year. And she just said, next question. So there's some animosity that really doesn't feel like it needs to be there. And don't know why. Will they get over that? Hopefully eventually. I don't think it's bad for the WNBA yet. It's kind of like an NWA thing, like any publicity is good publicity, but we'll see how long that can last. And I think like Caitlin's going to be around a while. These girls are just going to have to accept it. But Don, where were you taking that?
Well, I mean, everything you said, it's interesting. That's what, Charles Barkley and Shaq and a lot of respected NBA players that, regardless of race, those are some of the most respected black players in the league. We're saying the same thing. You guys are saying, why are other players being so mean? I think the one positive, I watched that game in the press conference afterwards where a teammate that was standing up for Clark, like, didn't know she ended up getting a tech, and Caitlin was like, I'll pay half your fine. And so at least her teammates love her. That's kind of what this, I think it all boils down to. Same with Angel Reese. I'm sure her teammates absolutely love her and the way she plays. Going to I think the commentary around it, though, it's getting to a point where we're one game in and it's already like gone toxic. I mean, you have Ryan Clark talking about RJ3's wife and being white and how that's, an issue when it comes to his opinion. And if you're Ryan Clark, this is a guy that kind of went on like a bit of a defensive apology tour post NFL MVP race.
Yeah,
about basically
reason.
saying I'm not. And again, this was other black commentators saying you're race baiting with a lot of your takes. He had to go say, I'm not doing that. Here's why, XYZ. And now to start off the WNBA season with this, I just don't think, whether it's a good luck or bad luck, I don't think if your goal is to dispel this reputation, I don't think you're accomplishing that goal very well.
Sorry.
What was the question?
Didn't mean to interrupt you. You can finish. I'm sorry.
No, I was about to move on.
The last thing I'll say is the tough thing about race is people don't feel comfortable being honest when things involve race. They either want to use it to sensationalize things and talk things into a bigger story than what it truly is, or they want to diminish it and act like it's not a factor at all in things. And what we're kind of dealing with the media now and with sports is we obviously know our nation has a horrible history with race relations. So we have one aspect of culture that is very cautious when talking about things, and they want to basically be on the right side and make sure that they address that this is something that is happening, that this is real. And what that leads to is sometimes overcompensating. And then you have another side that wants to pretend that it's not a reality, that it doesn't exist. And what's happening in the media and stuff like this situation, same thing with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen MVP, is people are not willing to be honest with each other. When it comes to the sport of basketball, and this is a touchy topic for some, I'll just be honest with it. A lot of people know that it is turned into a mostly black-dominated sport in recent decades. Not to say that there's not a ton of great white players, not to say there's not a great
That's not a controversial
players
statement.
in Europe. There's great players in Asia. There's great players of all ethnicities playing basketball, but it's become a primarily black-dominated sport. The reason being is that it's a game of length, athleticism, size, speed, and a lot of those attributes. The women's game is a little bit different than the men's game. You don't have the same size. You don't have the same speed. And when you're talking about the game, that equals things out. And what we're seeing right now, I think, in the WNBA is that there's a lot of players that feel a certain way, and that there is just an aspect of not respecting Caitlin Clark and basically wanting to, I don't know what the right word would be, Slick. I'm going to try to put you up here if I can. But it's one of those things where it's like they're trying to teach a lesson to her. And whether that be from certain players that don't respect her, whether that be different skin color or players that are older, but it's an issue. And just because some people don't want to acknowledge it doesn't mean that it's not real and doesn't exist. And unfortunately, I think that is a true issue that is going on with the WNBA right now.
Yeah, and I mean it's going to be an ongoing issue. So it's a conversation, although uncomfortable, we can't really stray from. But I'm going to segue us into our next topic. I think this is a great intro to bring our guy up.
Development in your announcing game. A lot of people are saying you're peaking right now. You're peaking right now in the booth and on the side there.
Just about to retire, so that's the perfect time to peak, right? Peak and walk out.
A lot of people are saying you're peaking.
I don't know what that means, but don't get too comfortable with it because it's almost over.
And with that, we bring up our guy who's gotten multiple scoops last week. At least 2 scoop, Mr. 2 Scoop Waffle Cone. Maniac, hopping in. How we doing, bud?
Thanks for having me, guys. Make sure to hold the sprinkles on those 2 scoops. But yeah, I was shocked. Saturday night, I'm at a wedding. I'm drinking my 7th Labatt of the night responsibly, having a great time. And I see people bring up a clip from a John Scott podcast where Rob Ray says he mentions that Rob Ray may be retiring. He may be joining the John Scott podcast. I couldn't believe how many people were saying that was the first they had heard of it. Folks, we had this clip back in early March. Rob Ray talking at the TSE signing. Truthfully, why I didn't make a bigger deal of it when it happened was I wanted to give Rob Ray, the vehicle, the opportunity to announce his retirement. This is a guy with almost 3 full decades of service to the blue and gold, to the swords. This is a guy with his number in the rafters. I thought that he should have the opportunity to kind of announce that retirement. But again, you have people jumping in the sphere. Has anyone heard this? Yes, it was pretty cool to have that exclusive. It definitely makes you feel good. I mean, it's great to have some crossing swords momentum when clearly there's no Sabres to talk about during the playoffs.
Well, I mean, between that and the Bundt bomb, I mean, crossing swords, yeah. You guys have been hot in the offseason. Who would have thunk it? But, yeah, I thought it was wild because I remember seeing that clip, adding it to, like, a weekend vlog or something. And I was kind of surprised that, you know, maybe it didn't get as much attention. Maybe we didn't have a big catchy headline, but I think, like you said, we wanted to use some grace with that announcement. So
yeah, I think it shows more than ever why, like, when you do have a clip like this, you have to repost it. You have to, like, point to it 10 different times because people clearly will just gloss over the time. And again, maybe we should have wrote all in caps, is Rob Ray retiring to draw more? We wanted to act in a respectful way to Razor, and I think he's owed that from the organization. And sadly, I hope this isn't the end of his run because it would have been nice to get Razor back to the playoffs, to get him a little ferocity. You can feel, especially these last couple of years, that this team has kind of taken a toll on his love of the Sabres and the game. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm outlandish to say that, but I look back at the, like, for example, the Lyubushkin, shorthanded overtime goal when he makes that grunt, that loud noise. I mean, that was a man who was filled with passion. Oh, yeah, like that was great. That was outstanding. So, I love that unbridled enthusiasm, that passion. And again, I would never, step on Rob Ray's toes as far as announcing. But yeah, shocking to hear that, Razor, after, a guy who has been with the Sabres essentially, I mean, you're talking Adelphia, et cetera, like those days, he was donning them for the blue and gold, the black, white, and red, all of them. And yeah, unfortunately, it seems like maybe his days in the, whether it's the broadcast booth or between the benches, could be numbered.
Yeah, well, we'll look forward to the Rob Ray night happening at home next year, I'm sure, if this is all true. But we've talked plenty of hockey. Let's talk Bills. We had the schedule come out. We had our second scoop of the weekend by Maniac with this clip.
This is from our buddy, I'll give him a shout-out, Maniac from Trainwreck Sports.
Yep.
I'm gonna believe Maniac here because he's a good guy. He said he is saying Buffalo will host the team from Tampa Week 11 non-prime time.
Okay.
Because Maniac is a good guy. What a show!
I can't even describe how much there is to break down in just that 14-second clip. So first off, the nice guy is so fucking funny because it's like, if it ends up being wrong, am I like an evil piece of shit?
I think it was I think he was defending you. Like, if this is wrong,
so you're saying no matter what, even if it's wrong, he's a nice guy.
Like, pat on the head. He's a good boy.
He tried hard. He tried.
Yeah, he tried. And then the other way he really inferred that I was trying was he said, he is making sure that if it's right, he gets partial credit for bringing it on WGR. And if it's wrong, no, I said that Maniac said this. So I love Sal. Just to be clear, do not clip this anyway, which it makes it seem like Sal and I are mortal enemies. But you got to be honest that he was definitely politically protecting himself when he took my insider information, by the way, that nobody else had, that nobody else in the Bill sphere even had a general fucking clue about, and then he used it on WGR. So I just want to be clear, the next time you're talking Bills insiders, the next time you're talking Shout podcast, the next time you're talking whatever, make sure you keep Trainwreck's name in your mouth because we're fucking insiders.
All right, before Maniac loses his breath, I will say Sal is definitely one to cover tracks if he can before he even needs to. And he certainly did in this case. Don, what we got?
I was just going to say, I mean, at least, we just got off the Rob Ray retire. No shout out. At least you got a solid shout out, Maniac, here. And, anytime you get to get the scoop and be right, like I said, you're now double scoop Maniac. Might have to change the Twitter handle. We'll see. But the question is, Maniac a Bills insider? I mean,
no. The answer is no. In the eye of the general sphere, no. Everyone thinks I'm just a loser. Everyone thinks I'm just running around. Even though I continue to bring stories to the forefront, even though I continue to bring stories to where you need them to be, I'll keep working thanklessly, and you keep enjoying my hard work.
That sounded
Wow.
like the intro to like a diss track that was about to start.
Yeah,
Like,
bro, that's like
drop
he
the
was talking
beat.
about Chief Keef ain't no hitter, Chief Keef ain't this, Chief Keef ain't that.
Drop
Shut
the
the
beat.
fuck up.
But yeah, so I mean, after all that, let's have a brief convo on Bill's schedule. I released a video. Maniac released a video as well. Bundt, I haven't seen your words. I know you're probably going to talk about this on Pay the Bills again, but let's give you the floor for this one.
Don't forget that AI released a video too. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, it's a schedule. I was hoping for Christmas or Thanksgiving night. I mean, after Mike North was on the pod with Sal and Matt Beauvais, I was expecting something bigger than what they got. I mean, it's cool, I guess, but I've become accustomed to this. They're gonna get a bunch of prime time. So 4 out of the first 6 is all right. But and Mike North is always talking about how the 425 games are just as good as a primetime game because the whole nation is watching you. Well, if the 425s are just as good as a primetime, then why did you give Detroit, Dallas, and Kansas City Christmas and Thanksgiving? Obviously, you didn't think the Bills were good enough to be one of those two. So I don't care personally, but I could understand if some fans think it's a little kind of a sign of disrespect that the Bills didn't get one of those marquee holiday games. Philadelphia got Black Friday. Detroit got 2. Kansas City gets 2. The Bills really didn't get anything exciting or sexy on the schedule. They just got their normal, let's load up the primetime games early in the year and then give them 425 games late in the season. So in December, November, when it's cold out, we'll just be extra cold. And then we'll have our Bills Mafia takeovers in Pittsburgh and Cleveland when it's 25 degrees there instead of October or September when we could actually have a good time.
Yeah, well, how do you feel about? There's been a lot of, especially some Bills haters, and even some just people saying our schedule, even though we're playing some rough teams, is one of the easiest schedules in the league. And I mean, we do have Baltimore, Cincy, Kansas City, and Philly all at home. I mean, what do we make of that?
This is one of the most favorable Bills schedules they've had in the last 5+ years. You look at the road schedule; it's easy. It's really easy.
Really?
Tell me they can't go 7-1 on the road. Yeah, they could lose to Houston, I guess. The division sucks right now. Yeah, Patriots are getting better. Miami's not complete trash, but the Bills could go 6-0 in the division if they really want to or have a chance to do that. And then your 4 toughest games are all home. If they beat the Ravens in the season opener, they could start 7-0. You're on the race to try to get a 1 seed. This is what the Bills haven't had. They haven't had one of those 7-0, 8-0 type starts to the season. Every single year, they get off to like a 4-2 or a 5-2 start. They finally get in that 1 seed conversation and they lose a game that you can't believe they lost. That last year, the Rams. Years before, there was Minnesota, and then they inevitably match up with KC at some point in the playoffs, and that's it. I think this is the year where you look at the schedule, get that 1 seed. Now or never. You get it. You have the 10th easiest schedule based on strength of winning percentage from teams last year. Take advantage of it, and you got to try to go at least 2-2 against Philly, Cincy, Baltimore, and Kansas City at home.
Yeah, Slick, what do we think? Is this the year for the 1 seed?
I think it is. If you break down the schedule, like Bundt said, in terms of away games, obviously we know the Bills went undefeated at home last year. All your big 4 that you just listed off at home, obviously in our favor, haven't had a problem against Kansas City at home in the regular season. And then those other teams, more handleable, I would think. Obviously, the Super Bowl champion's going to be something. But then when you look at that, week 17, is that going to matter too much down the stretch? Are we going to be playing all our – is Philly going to be playing their starters? I think this is the schedule, though. This is the year you really got to make a shot at the 1 seed. And it really all comes down to that week 1 game, as Bundt kind of touched on in Baltimore. If you win that game and you can come out of the reins 7-0, you're in very good standing, not only in the division, in the AFC, across the whole league. we've obviously the season has ended the past few times on the same note. Struggling to get that 1 seed is what comes to bite you in the ass, as well as not being able to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. If we can get the home field advantage against him, that's a hell of a start. And go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were done there. And there's another thing that needs to be discussed that nobody talks about when it comes to playoff seeding, playoff matchups. How many times have the Bills played Kansas? The Bills have now played Kansas City twice in the AFC Championship, where the teams Kansas City played before playing Buffalo were Cleveland in 2020 and then Houston this year. The Bills every year have to go through this murderer's row of, if they want to get to a Super Bowl, they have to beat Baltimore, and then they have to beat Kansas City just to get there. Or you have to beat Kansas City, or you have to beat Cincinnati just to get to the AFC Championship. And you're putting everything out there. You have to show your hand to beat those teams. Well, teams like Kansas City, let's be real, they're playing regular season football against Houston. They don't need to bring their A+ game to get past Houston. They're bringing their B game, and they're still winning. And it might be ugly. And then people are like, oh, Kansas City didn't look too good. They looked a little sloppy. Well, because they're saving shit for the Bills. And every time the Bills play Kansas City, how many times are we saying, God, we've never seen them do that? Where did that come from? Because they're able to manage things. And that's the thing. The Bills are front runners. They kill teams, and they're used to playing ahead. But they struggle in these close games. Kansas City has gotten so accustomed to winning these close games that it actually favors them in these tight situations. What the Bills need the 1 seed for isn't home field advantage. The Bills can beat any team in any place in the world. You want the 1 seed, so when Kansas City is in the divisional round, they're playing Baltimore, and you know one of them is going to knock each other out, and then you're going to have the advantage of hopefully having an easier matchup and hosting that team. It'd be awfully nice to be in the AFC Championship at home and knowing Kansas City just got knocked out and that you don't need to beat Mahomes. Because I don't care if the Chiefs go 9-8 or 17-0, I'm still going to feel like they're going to beat the Bills in a playoff matchup regardless of how bad they look in the regular season.
Right. Maniac, you got any last words before we move on from Bill's schedule?
No, I agree with what Bud said. My only take that hasn't been mentioned yet is basically I just think it's a little early to start saying easy schedule, etc. I know you can start doing it right now based on last year and where the teams are. But last year, we were looking at the schedule and we're like, San Fran coming in for, a Sunday night game in December. That's going to be like a tough one. The Bills were underdogs in that game when that game came out on the schedule. They ended up being 10-point favorites by the time the game happened. I know that we were a little bit more nervous about the Jacksonville primetime game last year. That ended up being a blowout. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a reversion to the mean where some of these teams that we don't expect to be good are going to be a little bit better. It would not surprise me if Carolina is a team that improves this year, and that's not necessarily an easy matchup, even for the Bills coming out of the bye. That's going to be a game, by the way, that's in between the bye and the Kansas City game. So that Carolina road game is definitely going to be a look-ahead spot. But that's the only point I bring up, is that I think that the schedule could be a little bit tougher than Bills fans are anticipating.
Yeah. If you saw my schedule picks, I think the NFC South is kind of a bit of a sleeper with teams like the Buccaneers and the Falcons, who are young, greatly improved, and seem like they're giving over the reins to Penix fully.
Not a given.
But we talked about it, I remember, on Trainwreck tonight, right after the Super Bowl, about how incredible, if you were a Philly fan, their playoff road was. 1 seed, Lions get knocked off, and like Bundt said, then you play the Commanders, who were a great team, but young, really didn't have as much experience, and you play them at home, and it was just an onslaught. So I think I agree. This is if you're going to get the 1 seed, this is a year, save something for the playoffs, but don't fuck around and focus on staying healthy as much as we can control it. But talking championships, talking Buffalo championships, we got the Bandits, the Banditos, heading back to Buffalo this weekend. Saturday game yeah, just a heartbreaker yesterday. It looked like we were going to squeak one out in a late goal by the Rush, puts them ahead. So Maniac, we got the party in the plaza. What's the plan for the live event for Trainwreck?
I think we need to do exactly what we've done the last two Bandit home games. We need to get Sheriff Don, making sure that everything is regulated and everybody's ready to go into Bandit land and tear it up. And then we just have to go and play a good, clean 60 minutes against the Saskatchewan Rush. The Saskatchewan Rush were the second best team in the NLL all year. This is not going to be an easy matchup in Game 3. That's why games 1 and 2 have been literally so close in both. Either team could have got a sweep by now. With that said, I think you got Bandits at home. I think you got a week of rest. I think that it benefits the Bandits across the board. Give me the Bandits 13-10 at home this Saturday, but we will be in the plaza and we will be rocking for those Banditos.
All right on. Heartbreaker yesterday. What really made it tougher was, man, that Fraser goal. Just unbelievable. Yeah. Like, I mean, you had Pat McAfee. I like seeing like national sports guys like that tweet about the Bandits, an NLL team, a Buffalo team, but it really just shows how much this sport is catching on. I really think, Buffalo, with the excitement that fans have had, maybe you could say maybe it's because of the Sabres' woes, but we're behind them, and it's really when people look back and point to the growth of the NLL, I really think they're going to point to the city of Buffalo for really being a flagship of this.
Oh, if you look at the NLL socials, they collab with the Bandits so often. It's basically like they're using the Bandits to grow the league for sure. You look at attendances, Bandit land averages, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Bunty, number in the 14 to 16,000 range for home game. The other arenas only average 6 to 8. So they're definitely trying to copy and emanate anything they can from Buffalo for the NLL.
Banditland is the staple for the NLL. It's been like that for almost 2 decades. So don't try to fix what isn't broken. The Bandits know a lot about that. But I think in terms of what they need to fix, just don't make unnecessary passes. Stop trying to do too much. I feel like there was a need to try and do one step extra last night, a bit too much. And it cost them the ability to get in close to the crease and close to the net inside that box defense, which we weren't doing as well as the Saskatchewan Rush were doing, and it cost us down the stretch. A lot of missed opportunities and penetration for them where we necessarily couldn't do it. So,
yeah, I want to give a lot of credit to Saskatchewan. They've just looked really solid both games. I was there Friday, and the Bandits were lucky to even pull out that game. They were down by 2, I think 3 separate times in the game. Slow start, had a disallowed goal that would have given the Rush a 3-goal lead. I think if Foot was on the crease right before a goal. Bandits, they got the lead, and then they were able to squeeze and hold on in that fourth quarter of game 1. This last game, it looked like it was going to be the same way. Kind of playing crappy, tie it up, take a lead in the third, and their execution has not been high from an offensive standpoint in the late stages of the last 2 games. And they were lucky to get a win on Friday, even in spite of their offense basically falling apart late. And then it came back to bite them in the ass on Sunday. And I really could see this going either way. I feel like a lot of times things come easy for this team. And so Saskatchewan's making everything very tough for them right now. But what's really hurting, I don't have the face-off numbers, but the Bandits are losing so many face-offs early in these games. If they continue giving the Rush the ball after every face-off, they're already putting themselves in a tough spot to where they have to step up. And I think that needs to change a little bit too. They can't keep trying to win these games losing the face-off battle on a nightly basis.
Game 1 and 2 obviously both had so many parallels, but one that cost us really the most, as you said, Bundt. I believe both games, Bandits with less than a handful of face-off victories in both games. That's just unacceptable. And even when they did get a face-off victory, it resulted in a shot clock turnover some of those times. Don.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you remember Sports City yesterday, it wasn't until halfway through the second quarter they won a face-off, and everyone started cheering like they scored a goal. Like at Sports City, it was that packed with Bandits fans. But we'll hope for the best. Hope we can tie history with that three-peat, folks. Come down for the party in the plaza, whether you're going to the game or not. It's going to be wild. And speaking of wild Preakness finish. Now,
journalism finally did it.
Journalism finally did it. Now, like I felt like this is good because I felt like going into this, it kind of lost all its pop with sovereignty. I mean, just being like, I'm not going for the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Did you guys still tune in anyway?
I wasn't live, but when I saw that replay, boy, I wish I was, because if you wanted electric out of a horse race, you definitely left the Kentucky Derby a little bit disappointed based on probably your picks, favorites, other people's picks, and just the general separation and sloppiness of the race. But this Preakness finish, my goodness, I don't think I've seen a horse race like this in quite some time. And just when everyone is starting to count out the favorite, 4 straight losses, everyone's like, journalism's full of shit, always so chalky on these leaderboards and all these big races. But no, down probably north of 50 meters in the final stretch, makes a pull at the very end for a photo finish, unlike anything I've ever seen. And definitely one for the books out there in Baltimore. I don't know if you saw it, Bundt, you Maniac, but a Maniac, I know you were doubting journalism the night of the Derby, but here he gets it done.
Not going to lie, when I heard what journalism did, my first thought was it had to be fake news, but electric finish from him, and love to see journalism prevail in the end.
As the only person here that actually was a journalism grad, it's nice to see a good day for journalism. But I will say when I see what happened with sovereignty and journalism being like names of horses, this is a very 2025 thing right now. But it's the Preakness kind of reminds me of what is bad with sports right now, like going into it. And I'm going to save you a long spiel, but everything being about money and analytics and load management is turning sports into way too much of a math equation than it is like the fun and love of games. And I get it. You have to take care of horses. They're animals. You got to treat them right. Trainers are going to do what they need to do. This is all about how much money they can make off of their horses. And back in the day, being a Triple Crown winner is how you could potentially make fortunes. It doesn't pay off that way anymore. And when sports become all about the money or all about basically load management, or analytics say my odds aren't good if I race on 2 weeks, what's the fun of it? Like, the fun of the Triple Crown is going for it. And if you can't even get to the second race, and they're saying this is going to be the norm going forward, probably, or at least more of a norm, I think horse racing has some things they need to talk about, whether that be either separating races more or coming up with higher rewards for staying in these races, because it's not a good thing for the Preakness if this becomes a norm where the Kentucky Derby winner just skips. And there's a lot of trainers that said they would have done the same thing if their horse had won.
Yeah, and the Preakness is already at, I don't know if you've heard, I used to go every year, and they've been saying for years, the city of Baltimore has been fighting to keep it there because the track is a little run down. It's in a part of town that's a little run down. So, yeah, I mean, if all the focus is just on the Derby and the Triple Crown loses its luster, I mean, what does that mean for the other races as well? There will be a whole impact, maybe spacing them out a little more. I think that's the only thing you can do if there's these concerns. But Slick, what were you going to head into?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think there's much more concerns outside of the general sphere of how horse racing is constructed. I definitely am one that is not a fan of how these horses might be treated off the scenes, off camera. I think there's a lot of things they can do better in terms of the better for the animals, the people, and the sport itself. But some things aren't just in our control. And until we see change, we might not never know. But journalism prevails out there in Baltimore.
It's about time, Slick.
Yeah.
It is. At last, Mike Bundt.
Yeah, at last. It hasn't during the past decade. So
it has not. And speaking of 20, you were like, oh, these 2025 American or these horse names. I see American Promise on these lists. And you want to talk about the 2025 themes. Geez, I mean, like the whole list, top to bottom, is just common.
I want something like, there probably already has had a horse named this, but like have something named like the American Dream and have it finish like close to last. Be like, the American Dream is dead.
See, that's what I mean. That's why when I saw in the Kentucky Derby that American Promise was like not favorite, but middle of the pack. And based on the general feeling right now, everyone's going to be on American Promise. I was like, fuck that. We're going to have that. Like, if I could take a trifecta on the last three horses, American Promise would be highlighting that one. Nothing against this country, but just based on the general theme and fading the public, that's the way I was going to go.
Well, I just need a horse named Dumpster Fire or something like that. And that'd be my horse.
I would love that.
We're probably not too far off seeing horses named after like memes like Hawk Tua or something. That'll probably so. I'm honestly, I would welcome that.
Italian brain rot has been all the talk of the town lately. It's only a matter of time.
I like the comedy names, but speaking of America, fellas, we got Memorial Weekend coming up. Federal holiday. Everyone should have off. If you don't, I don't know. I don't know who to contact or report these people. But anyone got any exciting plans before we sign off for the Memorial Weekend?
I'll start us off. I'm going to be heading out to – I'm going to be a Midwest queen for the weekend. Heading over to Chi-Town. Going to spend the weekend with our friend, your friend, Jake Micah. Going to get up to some business. Go to a place, see AEW Double or Nothing that weekend. Obviously, WWE's Saturday night main event. A lot going on in the city for the weekend. And then to top it all off, a Cubs game at Wrigley on Memorial Day. Checking that off my bucket list.
So I was supposed to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana with my wife to see my mother-in-law, but that might have just been canceled as of like an hour ago. So this guy is free and going to figure something out, I guess. So I guess just get me an espresso martini and I'll be in for a good time.
Bunch of free birds.
Get him an espresso and his phone, and we'll get some more Bundt bombs, I'm sure.
Hey, I'm not going to confirm or deny that there might have been like a drink before the tweet last night. So I'm.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, they call it liquid courage for a reason. Maniac, you gonna have any liquid courage this weekend for Memorial?
I mean, I'm just nervous because I just heard a rumor that the Trainwreck Sports Oversight Committee could be looking into the actions of one Mike Bundt. He's firing out tweets under the influence. I mean, that's just, we're an integrity-based brand, and I'm gonna have to see if that's something that can be permitted. I mean, I'm gonna try and talk to the committee, but yeah, as far as plans, I mean, I only got plans to do two things, and that's eat Picassos and drink Labatt Blue. So bring on the weekend.
Just know, Maniac, that 99% of my best tweets are things that have never been typed on a keyboard.
And I will say, when that committee goes to oversight and they see the amount of impressions on that tweet, they might just sweep it under the rug entirely.
Yeah, I'm scared of the committee. I'll be honest. I thought I was a decent rated person in Trainwreck Sports. Now I'm hearing about some committee I've never been told about. It makes me wonder if I'm much lower than I thought in the totem pole of Trainwreck Sports. So I am a little concerned right now.
Dude, just wait till you're
no.
Just wait till you're
listen. The
structured without your consent.
The oversight committee would never investigate like a bottom dweller. They only investigate top level contributors. So you do have that going for you.
Let's be real too. The oversight, the committee, it's like the UN. It's all powered really by one person, and the committee is all powered by one person. that is quite fond of the Bundt bombs. I have inside information on that. They're kind of a shell committee. I think he's going to be fine. But let's segue into shout outs and sign offs as we wrap up. I'm going to do a double up and use my Memorial weekend plans for my shout outs. I'm working, boys. I'm gigging 4 days. I got like 4 gigs this weekend. It's going to be nuts. I got to figure out everything. But if you're around in Black Rock, West Side, Buffalo this Friday, 9 p.m., I'm going to be at Sportsman's Tavern with a funk band. And then Sunday, if you're in the Wilson, Lake Ontario area, like northern tier, do we call it that? I don't know. Like, or is it just Ontario region?
Yeah,
North of Niagara on the Lake. I'm going to be at the Wilson Boathouse with a reggae band. That's Sunday, 4 to 7. Awesome gig, and the drive home is stunning because you're kind of driving south and west while the sun's setting. Anyone else? Bundt, we'll kick it over to you for any shout outs and sign offs.
I don't really got anything good right now. I guess. Shout out to PF Chang's for that espresso martini I was talking about the other day. So shout out to them. You guys, they have an elite one. So if you like espresso martinis, go to PF Chang's.
Yeah, shout out to Captain on the PF.
I was gonna say the only thing I knew about PF Chang's is Captain was afraid to go there.
I do have 3 shout outs. I'm gonna shout out 1, Mike Bundt for this day of reckoning. 2, journalism for finally prevailing, and 3, shout out to the Buffalo Bills perfect 10 Khalil Shakir for paying for my airfare to Boise, Idaho for his football camp. Khalil, I'm still waiting on the ticket transfer, but I appreciate you, my guy.
That's huge by Khalil. Speaking of mid, I want to give a huge shout out to I know I missed the segment, but the WNBA media for picking up their nonsense in mid-season form right out the gate with Caitlin Clark and Andres. I was worried that they were going to be a little rusty going out the gate. I was worried that they might have a stumble or two, but no, mid-season form from these silly gooses. And yeah, Angel Reese picked up right where she left off, getting those backboards.
Bang!
Bang! We love to see it. Yeah, Angel Reese. Getting double doubles. Caitlin Clark in triple doubles. Just like they're on fire. And folks, who else is on fire? It's the train. If you're not on the train, get on the train. Head over and get some merch while you're at it. Use the code Trainwreck to save 10% on anything at all. Anything we got for sale. We're going to get some more stuff up there. Maybe we'll get maybe we'll start selling ice cream called 2 Scoop, Maniac's 2 Scoop with how much he's scooping over here. But shout out to Picasso's, our sponsor for this episode, every sponsor of Trainwreck, right? And shout out to all the people watching. Thank you so much for being a fan, and everybody have a good night now.